Rain poured over the narrow streets of Kyoto as darkness swallowed the last traces of daylight. Water rolled from the tiled rooftops, splashing onto ancient stone paths that had witnessed generations of warriors. Hidden behind rows of wooden buildings stood a dojo few outsiders even knew existed. No signs advertised its presence. No students spoke its name outside those walls. People simply whispered about it. They called it the House of Iron Silence. Inside, nearly 40 black belt practitioners trained in complete harmony. Every movement echoed through the massive wooden hall like the heartbeat of a single creature. Heavy breathing mixed with the sound of bare feet sliding across polished cedar floors. The students trained under one man, Grandmaster Hayato Ishikawa. He was nearly 65 years old, broad-shouldered despite his age, with silver hair tied neatly behind his head. Thick eyebrows shadowed sharp eyes that seemed capable of seeing through every weakness hidden inside a person. Legend claimed he had never lost a duel. Others believed he had ended more fights than anyone could count without ever needing to strike twice. Whether those stories were true hardly mattered. His students believed every word. That belief made him untouchable. The Grandmaster slowly walked between pairs of sparring students with his hands behind his back. Again, the room instantly obeyed. No hesitation, no wasted movement, no unnecessary sound. Then, the massive wooden entrance creaked open. Every movement inside the dojo stopped. Rain dripped from the silhouette standing in the doorway. A man wearing simple black training clothes stepped inside without speaking. Water streamed from his sleeves. His calm eyes slowly scanned the room. Bruce Lee. Several younger students immediately recognized him. Some had seen magazine articles, others had watched demonstrations in America. A few quietly whispered, "That's Bruce Lee. I thought he lived in Hong Kong. What is he doing here?" One student laughed quietly. "The movies must not be paying enough." Several others joined him. Grandmaster Ishikawa did not smile. He simply stared. Bruce bowed respectfully. "Good evening." Silence answered him. The Grandmaster finally spoke. "This dojo is private." "I know." "You entered anyway." "I did." "Why?" Bruce looked around the room. His voice remained calm. "I've traveled across many countries learning how different masters understand combat." One student interrupted loudly. "You came to challenge our teacher." Bruce slowly shook his head. "No." Another student scoffed. "Nobody comes here without wanting to prove something." Bruce smiled slightly. "Sometimes curiosity is stronger than pride." That answer irritated several students. The Grandmaster's expression never changed. "What do you wish to learn?" Bruce answered honestly. "I've heard people say your students never lose." The room became tense. "They're disciplined." Bruce nodded. "So am I." The Grandmaster stepped closer. "What exactly are you asking?" Bruce looked directly into his eyes. "I'd like to experience your dojo." A younger instructor laughed. "You think you can simply walk in?" Bruce answered politely. "No." "Then?" "I'm asking." The instructor stepped forward. "Our answer is no." Bruce looked toward the door. "I understand." He slowly turned around. Several students smirked. One whispered, "So much for the legend." Bruce reached the doorway. Then the Grandmaster spoke. "Wait." Bruce stopped. Without turning around, he listened. "If you wish to experience this dojo—" A pause filled the room. You'll experience it the same way everyone else has." Bruce turned back. The Grandmaster pointed toward the center of the floor. "Earn your place." The students smiled confidently. Now they understood. Bruce would be humbled. The Grandmaster looked toward one of his senior disciples. Kenta, a tall karate practitioner, stepped forward. Nearly 6'3", powerfully built, scar across one cheek, winner of countless national tournaments. He bowed toward his teacher, then toward Bruce. Unlike the others, Kenta showed respect. Bruce returned the bow. The Grandmaster raised one hand. "No rules." Immediately, the atmosphere changed. Students surrounded the sparring floor. Rain hammered against the roof. Nobody spoke. Kenta lowered into a deep stance. Bruce remained standing naturally, hands relaxed, weight centered. One student whispered, "Why isn't he preparing?" Another answered confidently, "He doesn't know what he's facing." The Grandmaster silently watched. Kenta exploded forward. His first punch cut through the air with frightening speed. Bruce moved less than an inch. The fist missed. Kenta immediately followed with an elbow. Bruce rotated his shoulders. Again. Nothing connected. Several students frowned. Kenta accelerated. Punch, kick, back fist, sweep. Bruce avoided everything. Not dramatically, not by huge movements, only tiny adjustments. Each escape looked almost lazy. The audience became quieter. Kenta attacked harder. His breathing deepened. His strikes became faster. Bruce still refused to attack. The Grandmaster narrowed his eyes. Interesting. Very interesting. Kenta suddenly launched a spinning heel kick powerful enough to crack ribs. Bruce bent backward. The kick sliced past his face by barely an inch. Gasps erupted. Bruce stepped forward. Instead of punching, he lightly touched Kenta's shoulder. Just once, nothing more. Kenta froze. Bruce stepped away. "I had an opening." The room erupted. "You call that fighting? Attack him, coward!" Bruce ignored every insult. Kenta's face reddened. Humiliation burned hotter than exhaustion. He rushed forward with reckless aggression. Bruce sighed quietly. Now, he moved. Everything changed in an instant. His lead hand flashed forward. One strike. Kenta's fist stopped halfway. Second strike. His balance disappeared. Third strike. A controlled palm touched the center of Kenta's chest. Not hard, just precise. Kenta stumbled backward 5 full steps before crashing onto one knee. Silence. Nobody understood what they had just witnessed. Bruce hadn't looked powerful. He hadn't looked explosive. Yet, somehow, the strongest student in the dojo had been completely controlled. Kenta slowly stood. He bowed deeply. "I understand." Bruce bowed back. "You attacked with strength." Kenta nodded. "You answered with timing." Bruce smiled. "Timing creates strength." Grandmaster Ishikawa finally spoke. "Kenta." "Yes, Master." "What did you feel?" Kenta struggled to find words. "It felt," he swallowed, "like I was chasing smoke." The Grandmaster looked at Bruce for several long seconds, then toward another student. Masaru. The room immediately reacted. Masaru wasn't merely another student. He had been undefeated inside the dojo for 8 years. Unlike Kenta, Masaru specialized in pressure, relentless attacks, no retreat. He stepped into the center without smiling. "You embarrassed my brother," Bruce answered softly. "I embarrassed no one." Masaru cracked his neck. "You'll regret touching him." Bruce shook his head. "I already respect him." The Grandmaster lowered his hand again. Masaru attacked instantly. Unlike Kenta, there was no testing, no hesitation. He charged like a storm. Left punch, right elbow, low kick, shoulder smash. Bruce finally began countering. Every block flowed directly into another movement. Every movement became another angle. Masaru's combinations grew faster. Bruce somehow became even faster. The students could no longer follow every exchange. Hands blurred. Feet slid across the floor. Wood echoed beneath them. Masaru trapped Bruce near a support pillar. The crowd smiled. Finally, Bruce had nowhere left to move. Masaru unleashed 5 devastating punches. Bruce slipped all 5, without looking, without panic. Then he pivoted. Masaru struck the wooden pillar instead. The impact shook the building. Bruce calmly stepped behind him. 1 inch, 1 heartbeat, 1 palm strike. Masaru flew forward across the floor before catching himself with both hands. The dojo fell completely silent. Even the rain seemed quieter now. Grandmaster Ishikawa slowly closed his eyes. For the first time in many years, he had stopped watching as a teacher. He had started watching as a student. And somewhere deep inside his mind, a single thought quietly formed. Who exactly has walked into my dojo? The silence inside the dojo felt heavier than the storm outside. Nobody applauded. Nobody whispered. For years, the students of the House of Iron Silence had believed they understood what speed looked like. They had trained until their knuckles bled, until their legs collapsed beneath them, until every technique became instinct. Yet, in only a few minutes, Bruce Lee had dismantled 2 of the dojo's finest without humiliating them or striking with unnecessary force. Grandmaster Hayato Ishikawa remained perfectly still. His eyes never left Bruce. Most people saw a fast fighter. The Grandmaster saw something far more dangerous, someone who refused to fight according to rhythm. Bruce didn't move first. He didn't move second. He moved exactly when movement became unavoidable. That was something Hayato had spent decades trying to teach. Bruce appeared to do it naturally. Several younger students exchanged nervous glances. One whispered, "Master has never looked at anyone like this." Another answered, "I don't think he's impressed." An older instructor quietly disagreed. "No, he's thinking." The Grandmaster slowly stepped toward the center. "Kenta! Masaru!" Both men immediately stood beside him. "You fought with your strength." They lowered their heads. "You fought with your pride." Neither answered. The Grandmaster looked toward Bruce. "You still haven't attacked to win." Bruce smiled politely. "I came to learn." A student near the back couldn't contain himself. "If you're here to learn, why are you making us look weak?" Bruce turned toward him. "I haven't tried to." The young man clenched his fists. "You're lying." Bruce slowly shook his head. "When someone falls, I don't become taller." The room fell silent again. The words landed harder than any punch. Grandmaster Ishikawa noticed something important. Bruce wasn't insulting anyone. He wasn't boasting. He genuinely believed what he was saying. That honesty unsettled the dojo even more. The Grandmaster raised one hand. Daichi, a large man, stepped from the crowd. Unlike the previous fighters, Daichi looked less like a martial artist and more like a blacksmith. His shoulders stretched the fabric of his gi. His forearms were thick with scars earned from decades of conditioning. He specialized in breaking boards, bricks, and stone. People often joked that walls moved before Daichi did. But once he began moving, nothing stopped him. He bowed only to his teacher, then looked directly into Bruce's eyes. "I won't chase you." Bruce nodded. "I believe you." The students immediately sensed this fight would be different. Daichi didn't rely on combinations. Every strike carried frightening weight. One clean hit could end everything. The Grandmaster quietly spoke. "Begin." Daichi didn't rush. He slowly circled Bruce. Heavy footsteps echoed across the wooden floor. Bruce mirrored him. Neither blinked. Nearly 30 seconds passed. Nobody moved. One impatient student whispered, "Why aren't they fighting?" An instructor answered softly, "They already are." Without warning, Daichi lunged. His right fist exploded forward like a battering ram. Bruce slipped outside the punch. Before he could counter, Daichi's elbow followed. Bruce leaned away. The elbow missed by less than an inch. Then came a knee. Bruce turned his hips. The knee grazed his jacket. Daichi continued pressing forward. No pauses, no wasted motion. Every attack forced Bruce backward. For the first time that evening, Bruce gave ground. Several students smiled. "He's retreating." We finally found his limit. But Grandmaster Ishikawa frowned. "No. Watch his feet." Bruce wasn't retreating because he had to. He was measuring. Every step collected information. Distance, timing, weight, balance. Daichi roared and unleashed a crushing downward strike. Bruce sidestepped. The blow smashed into the wooden floor. The entire dojo shook. Dust drifted from the ceiling beams. Bruce glanced at the damaged boards. Very powerful. Daichi answered with another attack. This time Bruce entered instead of retreating. His body slipped inside Daichi's reach before anyone realized what had happened. A quick palm redirected the giant man's shoulder. A short elbow touched his ribs. A finger jab stopped inches from his throat. Then Bruce disappeared again. Daichi spun around. Too late. Bruce already stood several feet away. The students gasped. "He was right there! When did he move?" Daichi charged again. His breathing grew heavier. His movements became larger. Bruce remained calm. Every massive strike cut through empty air. The louder Daichi became, the quieter Bruce looked. Grandmaster Ishikawa folded his arms. He finally understood. Bruce wasn't defeating techniques. He was defeating emotion. Every frustrated attack made the next attack easier to predict. Daichi let out another roar. He committed everything into one final, straight punch. Bruce stepped forward. Not backward, forward. His left hand redirected the fist. His right palm gently struck Daichi's chest. No explosion, no dramatic impact, only a quiet sound. Daichi froze. His eyes widened. He tried to take another step. His legs refused. Slowly, he sank to one knee. The dojo became absolutely silent. Bruce hadn't used brute force. He had simply stolen the giant man's balance at the exact instant it mattered most. Daichi looked down at the floor, then back toward Bruce. "I've never missed that punch." Bruce offered him a hand. "Because nobody ever stood where I stood." Daichi accepted it. Bruce pulled him to his feet. The two men bowed to one another. For the first time that evening, the students didn't see an enemy. They saw respect. Unfortunately, not everyone felt the same. A sharp voice echoed from the rear of the dojo. "This has gone far enough." Everyone turned. 5 senior instructors walked forward together. Each had trained under Grandmaster Ishikawa for over 20 years. Each had earned the right to teach, and each believed Bruce Lee had insulted the dojo simply by surviving. The oldest instructor stepped forward. "You embarrass our students," Bruce calmly answered. "They embarrassed themselves only if they stopped learning." The instructor's face hardened. "You speak like a teacher." Bruce smiled faintly. "We're all students." Another instructor scoffed. "Enough philosophy. If your skill is genuine," he pointed toward the center, "face all of us." A murmur spread through the dojo. Even the younger students looked shocked. 5 against 1? Bruce remained silent for several seconds. Then he looked toward Grandmaster Ishikawa. "I came here peacefully." The Grandmaster didn't answer. Instead, he watched his instructors. This was no longer about Bruce. It was about the pride growing inside his own dojo. Bruce slowly exhaled. "If I refuse," the oldest instructor crossed his arms. "Then you leave," Bruce nodded. "And if I accept, you'll discover why outsiders never return." Bruce looked around the room. He saw excitement, fear, anger, curiosity. Most importantly, he saw young students watching carefully. Whatever happened next would shape how they understood martial arts for the rest of their lives. Bruce quietly removed his black jacket and folded it neatly beside the wall. No dramatic gesture, no boast, no challenge, only calm preparation. He stepped barefoot onto the center of the wooden floor once again. The 5 instructors spread out, slowly forming a circle around him. Each stood several feet apart. Each represented a different discipline. One specialized in devastating karate strikes, another in judo throws, another in traditional jujutsu locks, another in close-range elbow techniques. The last carried decades of experience with pressure point attacks. The younger students instinctively stepped backward, widening the circle. The rain outside intensified, pounding against the roof like distant drums. Bruce slowly turned his head, studying each opponent. Not with fear, not with arrogance, with curiosity. Grandmaster Ishikawa watched every breath Bruce took. His heart, steady for decades in countless duels, beat just a little faster, because for the first time in many years, he had absolutely no idea what was about to happen. The oldest instructor lowered his stance. The other 4 followed. 5 experienced masters, 1 quiet visitor. The atmosphere inside the dojo became almost unbearable. Then, the oldest instructor gave a single nod. All 5 attacked at once. The instant the 5 instructors moved, the entire dojo seemed to shrink. 40 students held their breath. No one had ever witnessed the senior instructors fight together. Each one was respected enough to command his own school. Together they represented nearly 2 centuries of combined experience. Bruce Lee stood alone in the center, relaxed, balanced, completely still. The first instructor attacked with a lightning-fast reverse punch aimed directly at Bruce's jaw. At the exact same moment, another lunged low, reaching for Bruce's legs with a judo takedown. A third circled behind him. The remaining 2 closed the distance from opposite sides. To everyone watching, there was nowhere left to escape. Yet Bruce didn't try to escape. He stepped forward. The movement was so unexpected that all 5 attacks interfered with one another. The judo specialist collided with the karate striker. The instructor approaching from Bruce's left was forced to stop suddenly to avoid crashing into his own teammate. Bruce slipped through the tiny opening as if he had known it would appear before the attack even began. Gasps filled the room. He predicted them. No! He created that opening! The instructors recovered almost instantly. Years of discipline erased their surprise. Again they surrounded him. Again they attacked. This time, Bruce exploded into motion. His hands became almost impossible to follow. A quick parry redirected one punch. An elbow gently deflected another. His shoulder bumped one attacker just enough to ruin his balance. He pivoted. The fourth instructor's kick flew harmlessly past Bruce's chest. Before anyone could react, Bruce was already standing behind all of them. Not one strike had landed. Not one counterattack had been thrown. One of the younger students whispered, "How can someone move like that?" Grandmaster Ishikawa answered quietly without taking his eyes off Bruce. "He isn't faster than they are." The student looked confused. "Then what are we seeing?" The old master spoke almost to himself. "He wastes nothing." The instructors adjusted their strategy. Instead of rushing together, they began attacking in carefully timed waves. One attacked, then another, then another. No openings, no hesitation. Their coordination was extraordinary. Bruce finally began to counter. A straight lead snapped toward the first instructor's shoulder. The strike stopped just before impact. The instructor instinctively flinched. Bruce had already changed direction. His palm touched the second instructor's wrist. A tiny rotation sent the man's punch harmlessly toward the ceiling. The third instructor attempted a sweeping kick. Bruce jumped. Not high, only enough to clear the attack. As he landed, his heel barely brushed the attacker's thigh. The man's stance collapsed. He dropped to one knee. Bruce moved again before anyone processed what had happened. The fourth instructor charged with relentless combinations. Punch, punch, back fist, elbow. Bruce answered each attack with almost invisible movements. Every block flowed naturally into another angle. Every angle became another escape. Every escape placed him exactly where the instructor didn't want him to be. The fifth instructor saw an opening. He specialized in pressure point attacks. If even one finger landed correctly, the fight could change instantly. He struck. Bruce caught his wrist. Not tightly, just enough. For one brief second, their eyes met. Bruce smiled. "You rely too much on certainty." The instructor frowned. "What?" Bruce released him. The man attacked again. Bruce stepped aside. The instructor's fingers struck empty air. Bruce gently tapped his shoulder. The man spun completely around from his own momentum. The students stared in disbelief. The instructors weren't being overpowered. They were being led. Bruce seemed to understand where each attack wanted to go before it happened. Frustration began replacing discipline. That was exactly what Bruce had been waiting for. The oldest instructor roared, "Enough!" All five committed to one overwhelming assault. The dojo erupted into chaos. Feet pounded across the wooden floor. Uniforms snapped through the air. The sound of rapid strikes echoed from every direction. Bruce disappeared into the storm. His body flowed between attacks like water finding cracks in stone. A palm redirected one shoulder. A forearm lifted another elbow. A small step caused two instructors to collide. One stumbled. Another lost balance trying to avoid him. Bruce never stopped moving. He wasn't fighting five men. He was allowing five men to fight each other. Within seconds, one instructor rolled across the floor after missing a kick. Another crashed into a support beam. A third landed flat on his back after attempting a throw that Bruce effortlessly reversed. Only two remained standing. Their breathing had become heavy. Sweat rolled down their faces. Bruce's breathing remained steady. One instructor lowered his fists. "I've never seen anything like this." The other shook his head. "It feels," he searched for words, "as if every mistake was ours before we even made it." Bruce bowed slightly. "I didn't defeat your techniques." Both instructors looked at him. "You defeated yourselves the moment anger replaced observation." Silence settled over the dojo. The 5 instructors slowly gathered themselves and stood once more. None of them looked ashamed, only thoughtful. The younger students, however, were stunned. Everything they believed about strength had been challenged. Grandmaster Ishikawa slowly walked into the center of the floor. No one spoke. Even the rain outside seemed distant. The old master looked at each of his instructors before facing Bruce. "You never intended to humiliate anyone," Bruce answered softly. "No. You could have injured them." "I could have." "But you didn't." Bruce nodded. "Victory that leaves unnecessary pain teaches very little." The Grandmaster studied Bruce's face for a long moment. Then he asked a question no one expected. "Who taught you that?" Bruce smiled faintly. "Every person I've ever lost to." The answer struck the room harder than any punch. One of the youngest students whispered, "He admits losing?" Another student stared at Bruce in disbelief. "I thought legends never lose." Bruce overheard him. "They lose." He looked around the dojo. "They simply refuse to stop learning afterward." The words lingered in the air. Grandmaster Ishikawa slowly closed his eyes. For decades, students had treated his teachings as absolute truth. Tonight, a stranger had reminded everyone, including him, that martial arts were never meant to become a prison. They were meant to remain alive. The Grandmaster opened his eyes. "There is only one lesson left." Every student straightened immediately. They knew what those words meant. The oldest tradition of the House of Iron Silence had never been broken. If every senior instructor failed, the Grandmaster himself entered the floor. A ripple of emotion spread through the room. Some students looked excited. Others looked terrified. Several quietly prayed. Bruce's expression remained calm, but even he understood the significance of what was about to happen. Grandmaster Hayato Ishikawa slowly untied the black belt around his waist. He folded it carefully and placed it beside Bruce's jacket. Then he removed the outer robe of his gi. Beneath it was a body still marked by decades of relentless training. Old scars crossed his chest and shoulders. His forearms were thick with years of conditioning. His posture was effortless. Power radiated from him without a single unnecessary movement. Bruce's smile faded into complete focus. For the first time that night, he no longer saw a proud master protecting his reputation. He saw a true warrior. The Grandmaster bowed deeply. Bruce immediately returned the bow. Neither man spoke. Words had become unnecessary. Around them, 40 students stepped back until the fighting space became larger than ever before. Thunder rolled across the mountains. Lightning flashed through the paper windows. The old master slowly raised one hand. Bruce settled into his stance. 2 generations, 2 philosophies, 2 masters who had spent their lives searching for the same truth through different paths. The entire dojo seemed to stop breathing. Then, the Grandmaster took his first step forward. The Grandmaster's first step was almost silent. Yet every student inside the House of Iron Silence felt it. No one had seen Hayato Ishikawa fight in nearly 15 years. His reputation had become larger than the man himself. Stories surrounded him like myths. Some claimed he could disarm a swordsman with empty hands. Others believed he could end a fight before his opponent even realized it had begun. Bruce Lee believed none of the stories. He believed only what stood in front of him. The old master's breathing was calm, his shoulders remained loose, his eyes never blinked. Bruce immediately recognized something different. Unlike every opponent that evening, the Grandmaster carried no anger, no pride, no desire to prove himself. For the first time that night, Bruce felt genuine excitement. He smiled. The Grandmaster smiled back. Without a word, both men bowed. The dojo disappeared. The students disappeared. Even the sound of rain faded from Bruce's awareness. Only one person existed, the man standing across from him. The Grandmaster moved first. Not with speed, with precision. A straight punch traveled toward Bruce's face. Bruce slipped to the outside and answered with a lightning-fast jab. The Grandmaster's open hand redirected it before it reached its target. Bruce immediately followed with a low kick. The old master lifted his leg just enough for the strike to miss. Bruce spun into a back fist. The Grandmaster ducked beneath it. Neither attack landed. The exchange lasted less than 2 seconds. The students erupted in astonishment. They had never seen anyone force their teacher to defend himself so quickly. Bruce stepped in again. This time he unleashed a combination unlike anything he had shown earlier that evening. A rapid straight lead, a hook, a side kick, an elbow, a palm strike. Every movement flowed seamlessly into the next. The Grandmaster answered every attack with equally economical movements. Neither man wasted energy. Neither chased power. Their techniques collided like two rivers meeting head-on. The sound of forearms meeting echoed through the dojo. Hands blurred. Feet glided across the polished wood. Every student struggled to follow. The younger disciples saw only flashes. The senior instructors saw something deeper. This wasn't merely combat. It was a conversation. Every attack asked a question. Every defense answered it. Bruce increased the pace. His famous explosive footwork carried him around the Grandmaster's flank. A spinning side kick shot toward the old man's ribs. The Grandmaster pivoted just enough. Bruce's heel brushed the fabric of his gi. Nothing more. The old master answered instantly. His palm struck toward Bruce's chest. Bruce twisted sideways. The strike grazed his shoulder. Bruce's eyes widened. That had been close, very close. A smile spread across his face. "So this is your timing," the Grandmaster nodded. "And this is yours." The duel continued. Minutes passed. Neither fighter gained a clear advantage. Bruce attacked from impossible angles. The Grandmaster dissolved those angles before they became dangerous. The Grandmaster countered with flawless precision. Bruce escaped by fractions of an inch. Sweat rolled from both men. Their breathing deepened. Still, neither lost composure. The students watched in complete silence. One young disciple whispered, "I don't know who's winning." An older instructor quietly answered, "Neither." They're discovering each other. Bruce suddenly changed everything. Instead of attacking faster, he slowed down. His movements became almost relaxed. The Grandmaster immediately noticed. He slowed as well. Now the fight looked almost peaceful. Tiny feints, tiny adjustments. Every inch mattered. Every breath mattered. Bruce realized something extraordinary. The Grandmaster wasn't reading techniques. He was reading intention. Bruce understood he could no longer rely on speed alone, so he stopped thinking about techniques altogether. He simply moved, like flowing water. No plan, no pattern, only reaction. The Grandmaster's eyes narrowed. For the first time, Bruce had become impossible to predict. The old master attacked. Bruce slipped inside. Their forearms touched. For one brief heartbeat, neither moved. Both felt the other's balance. Then everything exploded. Bruce launched a short 1-inch punch toward the Grandmaster's chest. The old master rotated his body at the last possible instant. The punch landed, not with destructive force, but with undeniable precision. The Grandmaster slid backward several feet before stopping. The entire dojo gasped. It was the cleanest strike of the night. Bruce didn't chase him. He lowered his hands. The Grandmaster looked down at the place where Bruce's fist had landed. Then he slowly smiled. "Excellent," Bruce answered. "You turned most of it away." The old master laughed quietly. "You noticed?" The students stared in disbelief. Their teacher had been struck, yet he was smiling. Hayato Ishikawa walked back toward the center. "I have one final question." Bruce nodded. The Grandmaster settled into his stance once more. "What happens," his voice echoed through the silent dojo, "when your speed leaves you?" Bruce looked at him calmly. "It already has." Confusion spread among the students. Bruce continued, "I won't always be young." He looked down at his own hands. "Speed fades. Strength fades." He raised his eyes again. "But understanding grows." The Grandmaster's expression softened. Bruce smiled gently. "If my martial arts depend on youth, they were never real." Silence filled every corner of the dojo. The Grandmaster slowly lowered his fists. "So, you understand." Bruce nodded. "I think we're searching for the same destination." The old master took several slow steps forward. Every student expected another attack. Instead, Hayato Ishikawa stopped only inches away from Bruce. Then, before 40 stunned disciples, the undefeated Grandmaster bowed deeply, lower than he had bowed to anyone in decades. The dojo froze. Several students couldn't believe what they were seeing. Their teacher's forehead remained lowered. When he finally spoke, emotion filled his voice. "Tonight, I was reminded that tradition is meant to guide us, not imprison us." Bruce immediately returned an equally deep bow. "You honored me by fighting with an open mind." The Grandmaster turned toward his students. His voice became stronger. "Look carefully." He pointed toward Bruce. "This man did not defeat us. He defeated our certainty." The senior instructors lowered their heads. None of them felt ashamed anymore. Instead, they felt grateful. The Grandmaster continued, "Skill without humility becomes arrogance. Discipline without curiosity becomes blindness. Power without compassion becomes violence." He looked once more at Bruce. "And wisdom is knowing there is always another lesson." The youngest students slowly bowed toward Bruce. Then the senior students followed. Then the instructors. Finally, the entire dojo bowed together. Bruce returned the gesture with quiet respect. Outside, the rain had stopped. Moonlight slipped through the paper windows, illuminating the polished wooden floor where moments earlier 2 masters had tested not only their skills, but their philosophies. Bruce picked up his folded jacket. Before leaving, he looked back one last time. "Thank you." The Grandmaster smiled. "No, it is this dojo that thanks you." Bruce walked toward the entrance. His footsteps echoed softly until they disappeared into the cool night air. For a long time, no one inside the dojo moved. No one spoke. The silence no longer felt heavy. It felt peaceful. Years passed. Many students left to open schools of their own. They taught the techniques they had learned, but more importantly, they taught what had happened on that unforgettable night. Whenever someone became arrogant after winning a tournament, whenever a young fighter believed strength alone made a master, Grandmaster Hayato Ishikawa would quietly tell the same story. He never described the speed. He never described the combinations. He never mentioned the single clean punch that reached his chest. Instead, he always ended with the same words. The greatest warrior who ever entered this dojo did not come searching for victory. He would pause, remembering the calm smile of the visitor in black. He came searching for truth, and by doing so he reminded all of us that a true master never stops being a student. That was why, until the very end of his life, the Grandmaster never forgot that night.